Commissioner, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
The obvious concern here at the G20 is about the impact of the coronavirus. How are you assessing the situation across the eurozone so far, and how is this likely to translate into the growth forecast?
I think it's too soon to have a serious forecast. The basic forecast is that we can have a quick recovery after the outbreak. So we'll have consequences due to the fact that the Chinese economies increased its role since the SARS outbreak 17 years ago. So the impact will be there, but with a possible quick recovery after the impacts in the next few weeks. But this is depending on the evolution of this outbreak. And so I think the important assessment that was made here in the G20 is to update continuously information on the situation and be ready to react if the downside risk will materialize and prove really serious. This is not yet the case, but we should be, I think, very cautious and coordinated to react quickly if we have a long-lasting situation.
So I think the question that the international investment community is asking now is, what does that reaction look like, particularly in the fragile economies of Europe, which have less room to move on the fiscal side and now less room to move on the monetary side as well? Is that a concern?
Well, the concern is that in a low growth situation that we had in the last 1 year and a half, low growth, low interest rate, monetary policy a little bit considered almost the only game in town. The reaction could be not sufficiently strong. But I think that there is a clear will from all governments, both in the eurozone and at the global level, to have a strong reaction. We have fiscal space, we have coordination, and we have determination to react quickly if, and in the case of a long-lasting outbreak. Because the point is, how long will this continue to be there? And for the time being, solidarity with China and readiness to react. It is too soon to imagine something more than this.
I wanted to get your reaction to the situation in Italy as well, obviously very close to home for you. When you look at the situation here, Italy is on the brink of recession. It has the highest number of coronavirus cases in Europe. And we're now hearing that the industrial heartland of Italy, in the Lombard region, for example, which accounts for around 30% of the country's GDP, is effectively being shut down. So is this going to tilt Italy's economy into recession? Is that a concern?
I think there is absolutely no reason for panic. There is reason for solidarity for the two victims that we had for coronavirus in these weeks, two victims. And then there is reason to have confidence in institutions and Italian authorities. They know the situation, they are taking the good measures, so the European Union is perfectly confident on what the Italians are doing. But I repeat, there is no reason for panic, and the situation is very matter of concern for the spread, but I repeat, we had only two victims, and this is the contradiction of this virus having a certain amount of spread, but demonstrating to be rather less lethal than previous one. But anyway, it's to the health authorities to establish what has been done, and the European Union is continuously in contact with Italian authorities and full confident of their decisions.
I wanted to ask you about the likely policy response that we could see from the ECB as well. They're meeting on March 12. Do you think that perhaps this is going to result in more stimulus from the ECB, a more accommodative monetary policy stance, a cut to rates, or perhaps even QE?
Well, I think that the ECB is following an accommodatory policy.
Is it enough, though?
Anyway, so I don't think that this is, but it's not to me to obviously to give opinion on this. When the ECB will meet in middle March, they will assess the new situation and understand that for sure they have already an accommodatory monetary policy, and they are in any case continuing this for the next months.
Do you think near-term economic projections are going to be revised down at that March 12 meeting?
Some sort of reduction, especially for the first and second quarter, is absolutely possible. We saw the IMF forecasting for the moment, a very small reduction in their forecast, but the amount of the reduction is connected to the duration of the outbreak. So, if the recovery will be very quick in China, I think that in the first quarter and already in the second quarter, we could recover what we are losing in the first quarter. If the situation in China will prolong its effects for more weeks, then we will have to update our forecast more seriously.
And this also plays to something that you've spoken about in the past as well, and it's the reality that the ECB alone cannot save the eurozone from this stagnant growth that we see persistently. Do you think the governments have to step up to do more on the fiscal side to drive growth across the region this year, particularly when you look at these concerns externally?
Well, I think that this is already something that we should do because of the low growth that we have, especially in the eurozone, low growth, low inflation, low interest rates. So this, in any case, needs to have a policy mix from the fiscal point of view more oriented to growth, even if these new risks will not materialize or will materialize in a very little amount. If we will have bigger risk, this will be even more crucial. So I repeat, we need a more supportive fiscal policy in any case, because we are in a low growth since a couple of years now. But the amount of this fiscal policy pro-growth oriented will be determined also by how this downside risk will materialize.
So still assessing the impact. Commissioner, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.